Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
The Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Please clap.
What's up? Around the nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you on this Friday afternoon. TGIF, everybody. Glad to see you here. Last day of the week. We got a bunch of stories. We're gonna have some fun. We're also going to talk about inflation, which is not fun. We also have Texas making people dumber, as usual, and then many different things. So we got more Capitol rioters, including an InfoWars host. You'll love his excuse. I think you'll enjoy it. Plus, we are going to talk about Kyrsten Sinema. Kyrsten Sinema, where did she go? Turns out she's fled. She is outie. What is she doing? You're not going to be surprised. A lot of stuff, a lot of stories. Should be a lot of fun here. So stay with me for the next hour. Then some, of course, as usual. Am I feeling a little cold today? Slight bit, I guess. It's getting a little cooler out there. Also, it's a good place to put my mic. All right, so... Oh, yeah, and I kind of have shirtception going on here as well. You too can own one of these shirts. My ugly face on it. True. It's true, too. You can actually buy one. All right, anyway. I'm just going to stop there. I'm terrible at, self-promotion. No, she is not holed up in the bathroom. I will tell you where she is. And of course, you will not be surprised. But hey, first, like and share the stream. Very important. Helps greatly to share. Sharing is caring, of course, is what we should all do. So, anyway, first story, we are going to talk about Donald Trump yelling about pee-pee. Oh, yay. Now, as if you wanted to know. Republican donors and lobbyists, the elite of the elites of the Republican Party, had gathered for an exclusive swanky retreat in Palm Beach. So this was hosted on Thursday by the National Republican Senatorial Committee. So, of course, that's the NRCC. I'm sorry, the NRSC. NRCC, it must be something different. But the NRSC is raising money, of course, for conservatives, and what they're trying to do is the whole purpose of the meeting is to get all the rich people together to figure out how they're going to steal the next election. I mean, win the next election. Well, what am I talking about? Now, lobbyists were first treated to a presentation about polls. Polls, great polls, tremendous polls. Now, these polls actually are actually pretty terrible for the rest of us. It showed that Republicans are actually in a strong spot to take back the Senate in the midterms. That's a disaster. Joe Biden's poll numbers had not been good as well, particularly among independents, according to people familiar with the research. And so now a lot of that, of course, is because Biden really hasn't been able to accomplish anything. There has been like the two pieces of signature legislation. You have the infrastructure, the bipartisan corporate bill, corporate infrastructure bill, and then you have the Build Back Better plan. Now, that's the social spending, the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. Both of those are being held up in Congress, and so Joe Biden hasn't been able to do really anything, at least in that regard. So now there are, of course, other things that he could do. For example, cancel student debt, which would help out millions of American borrowers. But Americans, basically, because we're pretty much the only country that has such a high amount of student loan debt, that's something he could directly do, but chooses to not do. And so, that is something that also likely hurts his poll numbers. There was also the media blitz on the Afghanistan withdrawal, which, again, I 100% supported. And I've even defended that because the right thing to do, even though the media is, again, bloodthirsty, I guess in a literal sense, cheering on war after war after war after war. And so there's that. So all of that has contributed to Joe Biden losing some ground in the polls. Democrats, because people will look at that and they think, well, okay, so we gave Democrats power because they promised they were going to do things. They were going to lower drug prices and all that stuff, the popular stuff, and they haven't done anything. Well, so why did we put them into power if they weren't going to do anything? Which is why it's really, really important that the reconciliation bill pass. And so far, I think some version of it will, but massively, massively cut back. And so that's not going to help either. All right. Now, that said, the NRSC held this fundraiser, and Trump was there, naturally. Of course he was, because he's a big part of the Republican Party. He essentially runs the Republican Party at this point. They're a cult devoted to Trump. And so, as always, since he was there, he decided to say insane things. So now, according to Washington Post reporting, top GOP operatives and U.S. senators were in attendance for Trump's speech at the end, where he had lauded himself as the savior of the Republican Party. It was a dying party, I'll be honest. Now we have a very lively party. And he said before going into election conspiracies, of course, it's a terrible thing what they did in Georgia and other states. You look at Texas, you look at a lot of states, they're correcting all the ways we were abused over the last election, the last two elections, if you think about it. Okay, so normal election stuff, still not over 2020, never going to get over 2020 because he's obsessed. He's obsessed. His ego will not allow him to admit to being an absolute loser. And so now the best part, though, is where he unprompted yelled out this: I'm not into golden showers. You know the great thing, our great First Lady, that one. Which one? Which one are we talking about? Our great First Lady, that one. Is there another one? This is insane reading Trump. But no, he says, our great First Lady, that one, the one over there, not the current one, which isn't actually the first lady because it's not actually president. I don't believe that one, she said. The one about the PP. Which one does she believe? I mean, look, from Grisham's book, apparently she believed in the alleged affairs with Stormy Daniels and Keith McDougal. But okay, still, why would you bring that up? What are you doing? What are you doing bringing up? By the way, I don't like pee. I don't like being peed on. Yeah. Okay, but nobody there was asking about this. No one. You think anybody in that crowd was like, by the way, I'm really concerned about the alleged pee tape. Please talk about this. Please. Why? Why? Who brings that up? Who talks about that in a public setting? Just unprompted. Now, I would understand if like somebody asked him a question like, hey, what do you think about that? Nope, never did it. Not involved. Move on to the next question, please. No, it's just, I don't like that. I don't like getting peed on. It's just, people are saying, everybody's saying it's not good. It's just not, it's bad. You know what it makes you think, right? It makes you think that if you're going to bring it up, then you probably do like it. If you do, I don't care if you like it or not. That's fine. Nobody needs to know it, though. So why announce it? I just don't understand. What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, you guys, the wettest shower from the standpoint of wet. Oh, God. Thank you, chat. Thank you. Again, this is a reference to the Steele dossier, right? And the so-called PP tape, which we know is actually one of the more salacious yet unproven parts of that dossier. So now some of the other stuff that's in it actually, it's actually proven. So, for example, the Trump team met with Russian officials. Court filings revealed that at least 16 Trump associates had contacts with Russians during the campaign and the transition. While Manafort, of course, was a lobbyist for Ukraine and had not disclosed that he was representing the interests of another country as a foreign agent. Manafort, along with others, including Rick Gates, engaged in a scheme to hide income from that arrangement from U.S. tax authorities while enjoying the personal use of that money. And so Michael Flynn also pleaded guilty in December of 2017 to one account of making materially false statements to the FBI about discussions with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak about the Trump administration's intent to lift certain sanctions. So, but of course, Michael Flynn, pardoned by Donald Trump. Literal criminal. So overall, some of the stuff in the dossier was absolutely true, but not the most salacious stuff. And so why not bring up that? Why bring up the most salacious stuff that is unproven? I mean, at least in the case of that whole thing, very unproven, just like the Russia hoax, just like all the rest. Okay, you could at least say that, but again, don't bring it up. Why? And by the way, the only reason Donald Trump did not get impeached for any of this stuff, or I should say, did not get removed, it's because the Republican Party is corrupt. They're the party of Donald Trump. They're cultists. They're never going to remove him from office because he is way too popular with the base. But again, all of that, why bring up the PP? Why focus on it? Honestly, before this, I kind of forgot about it because there was so much other stuff in it. So why focus on it? It's, again, now everybody's going to see this and be like, oh yeah, now I remember. Oh yeah, great job. Well done. Congratulations. Now everybody's thinking about it. All right. Go to Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon might be in a little bit of trouble. Now, the one-time former aide to Donald Trump had stated that he would not comply with a committee subpoena compelling him to give testimony on January 6th and how he was involved. So now Bannon's lawyer sent a letter last week informing the committee that he would not cooperate with that investigation. He claims, I got executive privilege. Oh, you got executive privilege. Oh, is that what's going on? Oh, I see. Yeah, great. So now he also, the lawyer also said that this was a matter for the committee and Donald Trump to work out, which of course they're never going to agree because Donald Trump is still asserting executive privilege. How do you assert executive privilege when you were no longer the executive? I don't understand. All right, so, but anyway, now Bannon, according to reports, now faces the prospect of criminal contempt. Now, this, of course, is on the committee to actually enforce that. But here's the thing. So now, again, this is, I should say, Bannon is one of the few people that are being subpoenaed to testify that have decided not to show up. For example, you have former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, former Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino, former Chief of Staff to the acting United States Secretary of Defense Kash Patel, and a former Trump Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark, who have been served. So now it's funny because they had some difficulty. Apparently, I believe it's Meadows and Patel that are in negotiations. So now this is a negotiation, right? Of, oh yeah, we plan on showing up, but we got to figure out how and when we're going to show up. And then Scavino, they literally had to track him down because he was hiding up in a bunker somewhere in order to serve him the subpoena. So now odds are a lot of these people are not planning on showing up, but Bannon is the only one that outright said, no, I'm just not going to do it. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. So now you're, of course, hearing about executive privilege. You're going to hear about it a lot. Again, fascinating because Donald Trump could no longer have executive privilege. He is a private citizen, no longer president. Now, of course, there has been a long-standing tradition that when a president is no longer a president, well, everybody just kind of ignores anything that they've done. And it generally worked out pretty good for previous presidents. For example, nobody could take George W. Bush to task for war crimes, or President Obama for war crimes, or Donald, well, I guess in this case, not even Donald Trump for war crimes. This is for something completely different. This is for January 6th. And so Trump disrupts that entire thing because he actually did go with Bannon and speak to Bannon and actually organize this insurrection attempt. And by the way, when it was happening, refused to do anything about it. He sat back and he watched, enjoyed it, the whole thing. So it is very interesting how they're both all claiming executive privilege. But again, it's kind of because our system allowed it to happen and nobody's challenged it because it was never in this case, the establishment's best interests to challenge that, because then you'd have to go back and challenge a bunch of other presidents for things that they have done wrong. And so they never really wanted to do it, but now they actually do have a reason to go after Trump. The establishment does. Okay? So now the thing is, for Bannon, executive privilege makes absolutely no sense because he was fired back in 2017. And during the insurrection, he was a private citizen. So it wasn't even in the administration. So how can he claim executive privilege during that time? Makes no sense to me. And of course, the committee agrees and says, yeah, that does not make any sense. So now NPR is reporting that the committee will now vote on a contempt report for Bannon on Tuesday, following through on its week-long threat of criminal referrals to the Justice Department for those who do not comply, which could lead to potential fines and jail time. We can only hope. Committee Chair Representative Benny Thompson said in a statement, quote, Bannon has declined to cooperate with the Select Committee and is instead hiding behind the former president's insufficient blanket and vague statements regarding privileges he is purported to invoke. We reject his position entirely. Good. I actually do hope they come from, if they don't, understand that if this committee does not exercise its power, it will look weak and feckless. That is the worst thing that you can do. It's not what you want to do when you deal with an attempted insurrection. One that Steve Bannon admitted he helped plan. So now you're going to have to. You gotta. So now Bannon, this is according to Robert Costa and Bob Woodward's book, Bannon was having meetings with Donald Trump, Giuliani, on the day before the insurrection. In fact, Bannon told Trump to focus on January 6th. He said that it was, quote, the moment for a reckoning. People are going to go, what the F is going on here? We're going to bury Biden on January 6th. Effing bury him. If Republicans can cast enough shadow on Biden's victory on January 6th, it'd be hard for Biden to govern. Millions of Americans would consider him illegitimate. They would ignore him, they would dismiss him, and wait for Trump to run again. We're going to kill it in the crib, kill the Biden presidency in the crib. Later on in his podcast, he says, it killed itself. Just look at what this illegitimate regime is doing. It killed itself, okay? But we told you from the very beginning, just expose it, never back down, never give up, and this thing will implode. On that, Woodward and Costa write, it was a planned revolution. Steve Bannon's vision coming to life, bring it all down, blow it up, burn it, and emerge with the power. So understand that this guy, Bannon's knee deep in this shit. He always, as always, he was. So again, you got to do something. If he does not comply, you have to do what is necessary. That means jail time. Lock him up. He is a criminal. Literally, also a criminal beforehand. Remember, he was pardoned by Trump for literally scamming people out of money for a wall and spending it on himself. If that committee does not vote to hold him in contempt and put him in jail if he refuses to comply, then they might as well go home. They might as well go home because rule of law no longer exists. And no one will suffer any consequences for insurrection ever in this country, which means, of course, they're inviting people to do it again. So, not good. Not good. Very bad. All right. You're right, there is a two-tier justice system, one for the rich and another for the poor and middle class. What is left of it? All right. Let's switch gears and go to Texas. A Texas school district is under fire for advising teachers to present opposing viewpoints when teaching children and presenting books about the Holocaust. Yeah. So, wow. All right. So now this is Gina Petty, who is the Carroll School District's Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, made some remarks during a training session that was called in response to a parent's complaint about a fourth grade teacher who had an anti-racism book in her classroom. I want to play this recording from you. This was recorded by one of the teachers in secret about what they planned on doing to deal with the new Texas law. I'll explain what that is in a minute.
As you go through, just try to remember the concepts of 3979 and make sure that if you have a book on the Holocaust, that you have one that has that has other.
How do you oppose the Holocaust?
What? Believe me, that's come up.
So number the stars, which is
What the hell? I mean, I believe that it's come up. I mean, knowing what I know, I definitely believe it's come up. There's an entire section of the internet that believes all this stuff is a conspiracy. And so that said, that doesn't make this a valid viewpoint. Okay? So now the Texas law, by the way, that is being referenced here is HB 3979. And what it does is basically forbids teachers to teach anything that could make a student feel discomfort, guilt, or anguish in regards to their own race. Now, I hate to break it to you, but that is kind of what history is full of. I mean, you have instances in the past in this country of slavery. You have the murder of indigenous people, the genocide of indigenous people. You have histories of racism, Jim Crow, etc. All these different things. On all of those things, there's really no opposing view to this, especially the Holocaust. 6 million people plus murdered, entirely indefensible. There is no other side. There's no opposing view. What are you going to do? You're going to bring in a neo-Nazi? Is that what you're going to? You're going to present the kids with Mein Kampf? Is that what we're doing? Is that what we're doing? That's insane. Insane. So now Carol spokeswoman Karen Fitzgerald said, oh, no. All we're trying to do is to help teachers comply with the new state law. Our district recognizes that all Texas teachers are in a precarious position with the latest legal requirements. Our purpose is to support our teachers in ensuring that they have all the professional development, resources, and materials needed. Our district has not and will not mandate books be removed, nor will we mandate that classroom libraries be unavailable. Teachers who are unsure about a specific book should visit with their campus principal, campus team, and curriculum coordinators about appropriate next steps. So now that's not true. The libraries are actually unavailable. Literally in that meeting, they're telling people, we're just going to make sure to vet these books first. That means they're going to be unavailable. So now Clay Robinson, a spokesperson for the Texas State Teachers Association, as a union, said that there's nothing new. There's nothing in the new Texas law that deals with classroom libraries. In fact, Robinson said the book outlines that Carroll, a suburban school district near Fort Worth, are a, quote, overreaction and a misinterpretation of the law. 3 other Texas education policy experts agreed and said, we find it reprehensible for an educator to require a Holocaust denier to get equal treatment with the facts of history. That is absurd. It's worse than absurd, and this law does not require it. I'll go further and say that no, the law is also absurd. They want to ban discussions that make certain people uncomfortable. Why? Or I should say, who? White racist parents. Those are the people that are getting triggered by this. They don't want their kids to know about the terrible things that our country has traditionally done to other people, whether it be, anti-Chinese sentiments during the 1800s, trying to literally ban Chinese people from coming into this country. All the different laws and all the different ways that we have actually oppressed other people, immigrants in this country, and pit some immigrant groups against other immigrant groups. And yet, look, as NBC notes, by the way, this debate's going on in this area for some time. In fact, the debate in South Lake over which books should be allowed in schools is part of a broader national movement led by parents opposed to lessons on racism, history, and LGBTQ issues that some conservatives have falsely branded as critical race theory. So critical race theory is a college level course. And that's been around for quite some time. It's not being taught in schools in K through 12 education. But they're taking that and they're saying that if you're teaching about racism at all, well, then you're teaching critical race theory. Not true. Not true. So they have taken this label and just affixed it to things that they don't like. That's what's happening. So now a group of South Lake parents, for example, has been fighting for more than a year to block new diversity and inclusion programs at Carroll, one of the top-ranked school districts in Texas. So first of all, it's a suburban area, and it is one of the top-ranked schools, which means mostly you're going to have white kids. So, of course, you got wealthy suburban white parents that do not want their children, by the way, they're mostly going to be Republican, that do not want their kids learning about how racism is bad. In fact, one of those parents complained when her daughter brought home a copy of a book called "This Book is Anti-Racist" by Tiffany Jewell from her 4th grade teacher's class library. It feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it kind of feels like the only people that would get triggered by anti-racist books are people who are racist. I mean, the opposing view to anti-racism, by definition, is racism. Now, I'm sorry if that makes you super uncomfortable, but I think it's important to teach kids about these things. Why? So, well, for one, it's history. It actually happened. You should teach people about the history of this country. Not to, it's not necessarily in a way to condemn this country. It's to condemn, of course, the actions of the people in this country that were enforcing these laws, but also to show, of course, the fact that, hey, if we remember our history, we can make sure to not repeat that history, so that those people don't have to go through these things again. Again, this isn't about guilt. This is about not repeating terrible things from the past, like slavery, okay, or Jim Crow. Those who forget the past are more likely to repeat it. But understand, repeating the past is exactly what racists want. Again, their whole point is to regress society back to where women, black people, immigrants are all second-class citizens, that they don't have power, that they return the gains that they had made economically and socially throughout the decades, throughout the years, that they don't have those things anymore. They want to go back to their, where they were on top. So they're going to cling to their ignorance, cling to the hate, cling to their alleged white supremacy, and never be challenged on it. They don't want to be challenged on it. So now, one good piece of news on this is that teachers are not happy about this, okay? In fact, the teachers that were in the meeting, again, for someone to be recording this, they were already incredibly concerned at what this law meant and the fact that no longer they would be able to teach their students about some of these things without having to, I guess, have an opposing viewpoint. In fact, following this meeting, some of them had a conversation. One teacher said, quote, "I am offended as hell by somebody who said I should have an opposing view to the Holocaust in my library." Another replied, "They don't understand what they have done, and they are going to lose incredible teachers, myself potentially being with them." But actually, no, they do know that that's going to happen. That's the desired outcome. Get rid of the good teachers. Get rid of the teachers who actually have a passion for teaching children facts. They want people there to teach them their version of history. It's revisionism. And understand that this is what the right wing does. They love revised history. They love making people ignorant of actual history. And so, and again, they want to do this. They want your kids dumb so that it makes them feel good. It's about feelings over facts. The politicians, by the way, politicians will write these laws because they want to get elected. And they, of course, don't want to do things that help, minorities, people of color. They don't want to do that. And so, the politicians, again, write these laws. Parents that get triggered about, books about racism, they're all doing this in an effort to keep people ignorant of our past because, well, if people know about the past and how bad it was for certain groups of people, they're going to want to change it. And that's one thing that they can't help. They just don't want to happen. They don't want to change. The truth hurts their feelings. And now they come crying and complaining. How dare you teach my kids factual information like racism and how mass murder is wrong? How dare you? We need an opposing viewpoint. We have to have opposing viewpoints. Be careful what you wish for, by the way. Because I could see some situations where this Texas law could be used against them. Okay? I mean, for example, okay, you want to teach Christopher Columbus in school, right? Oh, okay, well, I've got some books and some information about Christopher Columbus that isn't so good. Kind of challenges the, he's discovered America and sailed the ocean blue in 1492, and he's a great person. Not so much. Not so much. The real story of Christopher Columbus is about a man who was so incompetent that he blundered his way into the Caribbean and thought he hit India. Then, once he got there and was welcomed by the indigenous people, he decided to go back to Spain, bring 17 ships in order to basically murder and enslave the entire island, and did indigenous genocide. Not a good person. So yeah, be careful what you wish for, right? Because there's some information, that runs counter to some of the narratives. But hey, if you have an opposing viewpoint, well, okay, we can play that game. All these are stupid laws made by stupid people aimed at keeping people stupid. Also that racist white people and politicians can hold on to their power. All right. We got more stories. InfoWars host Jonathan Owen Schroyer is in trouble for being part of the Capitol riots, but is begging a judge to let him go free. And he's using some very interesting arguments here. So now, in a Thursday motion to dismiss the 2 misdemeanor charges he faces in connection with the Capitol riots, Schroyer decided to compare himself to Jesus. Literally. Yes, yeah, the same Jesus who famously marched on the Roman Capitol. Oh, wait, that didn't actually happen. He did whip some bankers, though. I like that. I'm in favor of that one. Okay, so now prosecutors allege that the host of InfoWars program War Room with Owen Schroyer marched to the Capitol with several other Trump supporters. Now, he was heard on a video telling the crowd, "Today we marched for the Capitol because on this historic January 6, 2021, we have to let our congressmen, women know, and we have to let Mike Pence know that they stole the election. We know they stole it, and we aren't going to accept it." Mike Pence was literally doing a ceremonial role in just reading off the certification of the elections that the states had already decided. He couldn't actually say, no, I'm not going to certify, and then put Donald Trump back in office. That's not how this happens. That's not how that works. Okay, come on. Now, Schroyer was then seen on video on the west side of the Capitol and on the top of the stairs on the east side of the federal building, according to charging documents. So he was there, and he's facing 2 misdemeanors being there. Now, he's defending himself by saying, not only am I Jesus, but I'm also a member of the press. And not only am I a member of the press, but the government invited me. They literally invited me in. I mean, they removed the barricades. So wait now. So if you, by that logic, if you accidentally leave your front door open, or if you leave your front door open, that automatically invites people to be inside. So if you leave your garage door open, that invites people to just come inside your garage and start smashing things. No, that generally does not work that way. I mean, let's apply it to people, right? Just for a little bit of a thought experiment, right? So, okay, this is kind of the same thing as saying, in a way, well, you know, she wasn't wearing, she was wearing clothes that were revealing, so obviously I had access to her. I could just come right in and take what I want. No, that's not how that works. That's not how that works. And look, by the way, today, I believe that an officer has been charged with actually, you know, allowing people in to the Capitol and telling one of the rioters, don't worry, I'm on your side politically, so I am going to open it up for you. That still doesn't make it right. That still doesn't make it not a crime. I mean, you know, leaving the door of a bank open doesn't mean you can come in and rob the bank. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. All right. Anyway, so now, oh, by the way, I do have some of his claims as well from his statement, I guess, court documents. Take a look. He says, this is from his lawyer, Schroyer is no rabble-rouser or violent insurrectionist. He acted at the invitation and direction of the United States government. The United States now prosecutes him for protesting its actions and exposing the incompetence on the basis of fabricated allegations. The Constitution protects Schroyer from such deceitful and tyrannical tactics that are more representative of communist China or Russia than of the United States of America. Thus, the court should dismiss the indictment against Schroyer for the reasons stated herein. So he's blaming the government for failing to protect the Capitol from who? I mean, who are they protecting the Capitol from? Oh, right, they're protecting it from you. The people that were literally breaking down doors, smashing windows, stealing things, for example, Nancy Pelosi's laptop, and smearing literal feces in the hallways. Those are your boys. And again, as a result of this, 4 people died. You were there. You were part of that crowd. Yeah, you didn't personally beat up cops or anything like that, but we're part of that crowd. We're there. That's why you were charged with misdemeanors. So, but no, he then argued that if his actions that day amounted to disorderly conduct, then Jesus Christ or the Dalai Lama would have been arrested for trying to be a peacemaker. Peacemaker, buddy. Do you not know what happened to Jesus? I would assume that you would be familiar with that story. I mean, come on. Really? What about the Dalai Lama? Dalai Lama is in literal exile. And let me just tell you, Owen Schroyer is neither Jesus nor the Dalai Lama. No, he's a conspiracy theorist radio host for InfoWars. I mean, you want to talk about inflated ego, comparing yourself to Jesus? Oh, by the way, he's also an insurrectionist who helped spread harmful conspiracies about the election, which got people to invade the Capitol building in the first place. So now I hope the judge takes a look at this and laughs him out of court. Absolutely. It's a clown show. It's a clown show, and he's a clown. Just like his boss, Alex Jones. Absolute clownishness. Total absurdity, the MAGA crowd. But again, what do you expect? Okay. Got more. Dalai Lama is a religious leader of a cult. Hey, so is Jesus. Same thing. Okay, anyway. So yesterday I got a request to talk about inflation. So I'm going to talk about inflation. Y'all asked for it. Now you're going to get it. Many Americans are noticing the price of food has increased substantially, putting pressure, of course, on regular people who suffer from low wages, lack of benefits. The average working person just can't seem to get a break. So now the prevailing wisdom from economists is, well, you know, that's because we're spending too much. The federal government spends too much. We gave too much money to regular people, ignoring, of course, trillions of dollars that they sank into the banks in liquidity during the coronavirus pandemic. But no, they blame it on the spending. And of course, Fox News conservatives will blame it on the unemployment benefits. And also generally blaming Democrats and Joe Biden for this inflation. So now, look, inflation is real. It is getting kind of bad. For example, since September 2020, food prices have actually increased about 4.6%. With the price of meat, poultry, and fish and eggs surging the most over the past 12 months at about 10.5%. So now that's an enormous jump in prices. That's a lot of pain for regular people. Gas has also increased. Cars, the cost of cars has increased. And so, look, there are people and an economy that is actually quite vulnerable. And so, and by the way, it's also happening under a Democratic administration. So, of course, well, that's a double whammy for the Biden administration, who has to deal with this. However, a new analysis actually points the real finger at wealthy corporations as being the major driver behind the increase in prices. In fact, researchers at the Groundwork Collaborative, a progressive think tank, says that addressing the crisis means recognizing these price increases for what they are: the result of deeply entrenched, concentrated corporate power. So wait, now how is it the company's fault? Well, they explain that the more sway mega corporations have over our economy, the more power they have to gouge customers, squeeze Main Street, and exploit workers. This is according to Rakeen Mabood, chief economist at the Groundwork Collaborative. So the higher inflation rate, he explains, in those industries, researchers noted, can be attributed to decades of consolidation, which has given a handful of corporations an ever greater degree of market control, and with it the power to set their own prices. And they use the meat industry as an example. We only have 4 major meat processing plants. They control more than 80% of the beef industry and more than 60% of the pork industry. Since they have so much control over the markets, they can basically collaborate to dictate prices. So now, for one, it's got 2 different effects. For one, farmers and ranchers will get crushed. So their returns will get flattened. And the company can then also raise prices for consumers. So as a result, we've seen a 12% increase in the cost of beef and a nearly 10% increase in the cost of pork over the last year. So now there are different factors here. For one, you could say, well, pandemic, right? It's a pandemic, it's supply and demand. Well, okay, but this isn't quite like other goods. So understand that food production is necessary. It didn't abate during the pandemic. It didn't stop. And as a result of the price increases during the pandemic, their profits did incredibly well. In fact, the 4 major meat processors actually gave billions of dollars to their shareholders in dividends and bought back millions of dollars worth of their own stocks. So they did the stock buybacks. Gee, so I wonder what happened. Wow, they raised their prices, and they were able to, as a result, give massive dividends to their corporate boards. Gee, I wonder what the problem here is. Oh, it must be Joe Biden. It must be the Democrats. Now, of course, they are at fault for not actually trying to fix the problems, to be fair, but they also didn't quite cause the problems. In this case, it is unchecked corporate greed, which they could absolutely do something about, but they choose not to. But let's go back to the price of eggs. So the price of eggs has risen about 9.9% since August of 2020. Now, state governments, including Minnesota, Texas, California, and New York, as a result, have sued the egg producers and distributors for illegally raising the price of eggs during the pandemic, doing price fixing. As one lawsuit put it, jacking up egg prices is allowing these companies, including some of the largest producers and wholesale distributors of eggs, to profit from the misery of millions. So again, they're arbitrarily raising prices, gouging customers, and working together generally as a market, since they have so much of the market, to fix prices. When did we see that happen before? Oh, right. Toilet paper, hand sanitizer, bottled water. Okay. So, and by the way, when the producers raise prices, the stores, which are another part of this chain and another part of the problem, they hand the increased costs down to us consumers. In fact, Kroger is a great example of this. Kroger charged customers more while simultaneously suppressing wages amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, researchers explained here that Kroger spent the summer of 2021 gloating that a little bit of inflation is always good for our business, before citing inflation to justify price hikes. Kroger publicly acknowledged that they could get away with increasing prices on consumers as long as prices didn't rise by more than 3 or 4%. And that's exactly what they did. As a result, that same year, the Kroger CEO earned 909 times what the median Kroger worker earned. This is while also cutting pay by 8%. You know, it's funny. I thought they were supposed to be essential. They're supposed to be essential. Well, aren't they heroes? Didn't you go around all these stores and all these? Oh my God, of workers, heroes. We should really do something for these. We should recognize these heroes that are working during this pandemic and exposing themselves to risk and terrible customers. I know. Let's maybe give them a tiny little bit of hazard pay and then immediately take it away and then increase prices. Suckers, we're going to make more money. And that's exactly what happened. And by the way, during that same time, they did $1.5 billion in stock buybacks. $1.5 billion. And that was just between April 2020 and July of 2021. All that money that they made, they didn't need to raise prices. They didn't need to inflate their prices. No, they had all this money, but instead they did stock buybacks, which, by the way, they artificially drive up the prices of shares, which again benefits wealthy investors. That's how you can make more dividends. Now, that doesn't mean the company's more valuable. It doesn't mean it's more profitable, but it does give nice dividends to the shareholders. And again, all of this is why you're paying more for food. It's not that there's a supply crunch, right? And it's not that these companies are barely struggling to survive. No, these companies are doing incredibly well. Now, Mahmoud said this. He said, these concentrated corporate power has systematically stripped down supply chains and created room for pandemic profiteers, as well as longstanding underinvestment in our economy. Again, there's other factors as well. Again, a lot of this stems from the pandemic, and these people have came in, these executives, and said, we can use this pandemic to our advantage. And look, as I said, there are supply chain disruptions as well, directly related to the pandemic, global shortage of semiconductor computer chips, supply and demand issues. But at the heart of why food costs so much is, again, raising prices, even though they have massive profits. Now, other companies have decided to dial back production. That's why, for a while, lumber cost a lot, and fired workers, only to be surprised that demand went back up. But they decided, by the way, to not hire people back at higher wages. Now, you also have truck drivers. There's an issue with that. Again, poor pay. Grocery store and fast food workers, poor pay. And so now, as a result of all this, people are saying, well, I don't want to go back to those crappy jobs. They don't pay enough. There's not enough benefits. And so we're not going to do these jobs anymore. Another factor, of course, has to do with politics. Democrats did not decide to raise wages when they had a chance, thanks to Kyrsten Sinema. And so they don't even really plan on doing that, by the way. Now, Republicans in states ended these expanded unemployment benefits as well because of the so-called labor shortage, which isn't actually a labor shortage. And they did so because, well, yeah, Americans they're being lazy. They're being lazy. That's not true. Again, a lot of the states that ended those benefits saw absolutely no change in the unemployment rate at all. At all. Now, the thing is, Americans aren't lazy. What's going on is companies don't pay them enough. They can afford childcare with all the other stuff that's risen in price, again, as a result of greedy corporations, which is why Americans are going on strike. In fact, you have 10,000 John Deere workers. You're about to have 60,000 stage workers go on strike. Kellogg's, you have miners on strike as well, and so you've got a lot of workers that are finally fed up with all of this, with the poor pay, and now, of course, the price gouging as well. While these companies make billions and billions of dollars off the pandemic. By the way, these companies also receive tons of money from the government in handouts from the Paycheck Protection Program. And these same companies don't pay their fair share in taxes, while the middle class and the working poor get shafted. They get hosed. These are problems that the government could fix. Either party could get together to fix these things through good monetary policy, good directed spending, other legislative fixes, but unfortunately refuse to do so because they have, in the end, been corrupted by a gigantic sea of corporate money. It's the corruption. That's what's going on. It is greed and corruption at all different levels, corporate, legislative, etc. That is to blame here for what's going on in this country. We got to fix it. All right. One more story here. Let's go to corruption. Speaking of corruption, we have Kyrsten Sinema. Where in the world is Kyrsten Sinema? That's the question that a lot of us are asking, because apparently she is no longer in the Senate during very heated negotiations over the $3.5 trillion reconciliation package. Where did she go? Is she meeting constituents? Is she addressing their concerns? Is she figuring out exactly what she wants to drop from the massive social spending bill? Pouring through reports and saying, we could do without this or we could do without that. And how to deliver that message? No, of course not. She went to Europe to raise money. In fact, a Sinema spokesperson told the New York Times that she is participating in a fundraiser for the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. So now, why would anybody give her money? When she's literally blocking the passage of the reconciliation bill along with Joe Manchin? Oh, right, we're not talking about regular people. We're talking about rich donors, because of course. Now, a source told the outlet that there was a fundraiser in Paris, but it's unclear whether the senator was actually invited or urged to go by party officials. Sinema's office did not mention how long she would be away either, or which country she is visiting. So nobody knows where she's at, where she's going to end up. They also don't know who is paying for the trip or whether she is fundraising for her own campaign. Those sources told the Times that her team planned to set up meetings in both Paris and in London. And so we have an idea, but again, we don't know who's. Well, I'm pretty sure we can guess who's paying for the trip. Again, her corporate donors. So now, Senator Gary Peters, who's the chairman of the DSCC, and like nearly all Democrats, supported Biden's proposal, also traveled to London for a fundraiser that charged up to $36,500 per ticket. Let me just stop at how gross this is. It's a lot of money. The regular people, afford a $36,000 ticket? Yeah, of course not. Hell no. Hell no. That, you realize that is more than the average American makes. By the way, $30,000 a year is $15 an hour if you're working full time. Our federal minimum wage is half that. That is something that Kyrsten Sinema refused to vote on. In fact, she said no. She said no, not at all. No, you can't make $30,000 a year, but we're going to go to to a fundraising campaign that charges $36,500 per ticket. Disgusting. Now, to be fair, Sinema's name did not appear on that invitation. And it's also noted that lawmakers are barred from raising money from foreign sources, of course. So then who's she getting the money from? Well, members of Congress do travel overseas to solicit donations from Americans that are living in other countries, who tend to be affluent and well-connected. Oh, of course. So from what I take it is that she's going on a nice fancy vacation, hobnobbing with rich people, living in different countries instead of, actually doing her job and working to, try to pass a reconciliation bill, help rebuild our country. Now, this is Sinema spokesman John LaBombard told the Times that she is, you don't understand, she's working really, really hard. So she's actually doing her job. In fact, he said, so far this week, Senator Sinema has held several calls, including with President Biden, the White House team, Senator Schumer's team, and other Senate and House colleagues to continue discussion on the proposed budget reconciliation package. Those conversations are ongoing. Oh, ongoing. Are they, though? Are they really? Because Biden's team actually has the opposite take on this. In fact, Biden and Sinema's Senate colleagues have actually come out and said that this is a lie. They're not talking to us. Senator Bernie Sanders is the Budget Committee chairman, criticized Sinema for not telling her colleagues what's in the bill. Senator Sinema's position is that she doesn't quote unquote negotiate publicly. I don't know what that means. We don't know where she's coming from. Tell us what you want. One unnamed Democratic senator also told Politico that Sinema recently said, I'm not going to share with you or with Schumer or with Pelosi what I want. I have already told the White House what I am willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. I'm not mysterious. Oh, really? You're not mysterious? Well, how come you're not telling anybody anything? It's not that I can't make up my mind. I communicated it to them in detail. They just don't like what they're hearing. And Biden has been apparently exasperated after hours of talks with Sinema and has complained to lawmakers that Sinema doesn't move from her position in negotiation and doesn't always return calls from the White House, according to reports from CNN. Well, to be fair, Biden isn't alone on that because he's he's being treated just as bad or almost as bad as she treats her own voters, her own constituents. Again, she hasn't done a town hall in her district ever. She barely, no, she never returns calls. It always goes to voicemail, and runs away from her constituents. And yet, despite all that, she seems to find a lot of time to meet with wealthy donors. Gee, I wonder why. Oh, right. It's the money. In fact, Sinema is leading donations from the pharmaceutical industry and corporate lobbying groups that are trying to kill key parts of the bill. For example, the part that allows Medicare to negotiate drug prices, which would actually save Americans tons and tons of money on drug prices. She also received $519,988 from PACs and individuals in the pharmaceutical industry throughout her career, according to the Center for Responsive Politics. She also brought in more than $120,000 in pharma contributions between 2019 and 2020, even though that she is not up for re-election in 2024. Sinema has also received $190,161 from donors in the pharmaceutical manufacturing space and $62,797 in the medical supplies industry. Sinema's office is also led by a former lobbyist whose firm worked on behalf of pharmaceutical companies. Gee, I wonder why. Not only that, but she last month held a fundraiser with the 5 business groups that opposed the bill, which charged attendees up to $5,800 to attend a 45-minute event. Sinema also left Washington to go to Arizona, where she had attended a ritzy donor retreat at a high-end resort and spa, according to the New York Times. And also, The Interceptor reported that Sinema literally teaches an ASU class on raising money, including with topics including how to cultivate large individual donors, opportunistic fundraising, and corporate giving. So, yeah, that might be why. Kyrsten Sinema is not agreeing to, anything. And by the way, won't publicly talk about it. Because she knows that she's just working for her donors. And she doesn't want to be honest about it. So now, of course, everybody sees through her. Everybody knows who she is. In fact, her poll numbers in Arizona have cratered. A new poll from Data for Progress on Thursday showed that 70% of prospective primary voters have a negative opinion of Kyrsten Sinema, compared to 85% who have a positive opinion of Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. So now Mark Kelly is an establishment Democrat, but Mark Kelly is not going against an incredibly popular infrastructure bill either. So he's all in. He's like, yes, $3.5 trillion. By the way, is the compromise bill. Originally, it went for $6 trillion. Now, the poll also found Sinema trailing all 4 potential progressive primary challengers included with the survey. Now, the only problem is she's got like 3 years left. So, she's got a lot of time left in office, unfortunately. And she doesn't give a goddamn whether anything that helps the American people passes the House or Senate. And by the way, her actions are making it very likely that Republicans will win back the House and Senate in the midterms, which of course, and any chance that we're going to pass anything substantial, and would turn the Biden presidency into a lame duck presidency, the rest of it. And unfortunately, that could also very likely lead to Donald Trump, if he runs, beating Joe Biden. Disaster all around, all thanks to the greed of a couple of senators, Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema. But Manchin, interestingly enough, Manchin's like, well, I have a number and I know exactly what I want to cut out of the bill. It's Sinema that's being cagey about it. So in this case, yeah, Manchin's corrupt, but at least he's open about it and says, yes, I know exactly what I want to do, and I know exactly that I'm going to, just decimate this bill. But at least I'm honest about it and consistent about how corrupt I am. Kyrsten Sinema won't even admit it. Disgusting. Get money out of politics. All right. That's it. That's all I got today for you all. Thank you for going around the nation today. Go to Twitch here. I got a lot of stuff on Twitch here, so thank you. Let's see. Flaco Huesos first subbed at 3 months at tier 1. Thank you for resubbing. Also, look at that, giving out a tier 1 sub. Thank you as well. That goes to help our show. Sunshine Andrea resubbing for a month at tier 1. Thank you. 5 months. Appreciate that. Crazy Hawaiian and PA. Thank you for the 200 bits. Much appreciated. Late Bloomer 66. Thank you for gifting 2 community subs. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you for the new follows as well. All of you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you to all the viewers, of course, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. Really appreciate it. We are going to raid into... let's raid into the Intifada. Haven't done that in a while, so we'll do that. Thank you all again. Please like and share the stream. Also, let me go back here because there's a super chat that I may have missed, or a super sticker. There's all sorts of super things. Very super. I feel like I'm saying that word way too many times. Get to that. Thank you, Gabby Mathis, for that $5. Much appreciation. All right. Anyway, thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Have a great weekend. See you back here on Monday.
Wet ass keyword.
Please clap.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.